So, thank you all for coming. My name is Carey Theil. I'm the Executive Director of Great USA. I know I've met some of you before. We're a nonprofit that works across the country to pass greyhound protection laws, phase out greyhound racing, and promote greyhound adoption. And we work all over the country, and we're also doing a lot of international work now. We're doing some very exciting work with Animals Asia and Animals Australia to work to close the only operating dog track in China. It's a track in Macau called the Canadrome, and every year there are hundreds of dogs that are shipped to this track from Australia, and every dog that's sent to this track dies. There's no adoption program. The track recently said that they've created an adoption program, and can you guess how many dogs so far they've adopted? What was that?
One.
That's correct. They've adopted one dog to the track veterinarian.
Oh my God.
So here in Florida, we have been working for years. We published a report a few years ago in 2011, along with the ASPCA, that looked at greyhound racing in Florida in a way that no one ever had before. That's on our website. So if you're ever interested in getting the facts on this issue, just go to our website, great2kusa.org. There's a Florida page. On that page, you'll find links to newspapers. You'll find the report I talked about. You'll find action alerts. There's all sorts of good information. I've been working in the legislature here for years and years, more than a decade. Now, I get to spend every spring in Tallahassee, which is not as bad as it sounds, especially if it means I'm not in Boston toward the end of the winter. And speaking of that, when I came down today, I flew down from Boston today, I was not expecting bad weather. I have to tell you, it was 18 degrees last night. That I expected, but I didn't expect this. Kate McFall is with me. She's the state director for the Humane Society of the United States. I've known Kate for many years. She's a good friend, tremendous animal advocate. I get to worry just about greyhounds. Kate gets to worry about all sorts of animal issues, which mostly means random calls about peacocks, the giraffe.
Oh, yeah.
In the Florida Panhandle, very sad situation. Just anything and everything. So I don't envy you, Kate. Kate and I are here today to talk with you about the legislative process, how it works, help you engage in that process, and also talk to you about what animal bills are going to be considered this upcoming session, which starts in March and will go to May, and ways that you can help. And then, of course, we're here to ask any questions that you have about the process or about individual bills. Before we jump into that, I just want to say part of my job is to deal with animal suffering, is to deal with cases. I'm constantly learning about greyhounds testing positive for cocaine. Just a few days ago, it was a greyhound trainer in South Florida who was caught with 3 anabolic steroids in his kennel. This is just literally every day I'm dealing with another case like this. And the thing that doesn't go away, the thing that I never have been able to shake loose from are just individual stories of dogs. Some of these greyhounds suffer just incredibly sad fates. We're going to release some information over the next couple of weeks that has never been released before regarding the fate of Florida greyhounds. This is data that's never been out there. It's going to be, I suspect, big news. And I can't tell you all of it, but I will tell you that part of this information that's going to be released is documentation on a dog, 17-month-old greyhound, was sent down to South Florida to what's called the Florida Kennel Compound, which houses dogs both for Mardi Gras in Broward County and for Flagler in Miami. And this dog was put out on a training track before the dog was going to go to one of those 2 racing facilities, and ran into the racetrack rail and died. And I see a lot of cases like that, but the thing that really I haven't been able to let go of was the death report for this greyhound. It was a handwritten report, and it said, dog died on such and such a date at the training track, ran into the racetrack rail, no name, puppy had not yet been named. And this was a 17-month-old dog that had a mother, had siblings, and should have been in a family somewhere, and instead died on the training track and never even had a name. I just, I find that incredibly sad. And so that's why I'm here fighting for these dogs. I know that it's, stories like that and situations like that has caused Kate to fight for all animals. So we're going to jump into this, but I would just say join us, because we can make a huge difference for Florida's greyhounds and for all of Florida's animals. The legislative process has the potential to, it's a difficult process. It was designed to be difficult. It's meant to be difficult, but it has the potential to bring about tremendous change. So join with us and work with us, and let's get the job done. Okay?
Great. Well, what a great intro. Thanks, Carey. And first off, I want to thank Sheriff Silk and the Humane Society of Tampa Bay for having us. And how many of you guys have been here before? I should say, how many is your first time to Tampa Bay Humane Society? Okay, good. Oh, good. Yay. Well, so glad that you're here, and thank you for having us. We really, really appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here. And he's already done some of the great intro. If you would forward to the next slide. That's just my...
It's a chicken.
It's a chicken. Okay. After this slide, I've got a special friend from here that I'd like to highlight. I don't know if Gypsy is here. Maybe Gypsy wanted to come visit. See the dog. I'll highlight. Just, yeah. That would be fun. But it just says recent victories. And Carey's right. The system is set up to be difficult so that bad bills don't fly through. I mean, that just makes sense for it to have a lot of checks and balances. So on one hand, we want to, people call me all the time and say, why have you passed a bill that just does away with puppy mills? Why haven't you done this? Why have you done that? And are you kidding? I mean, we're trying. It's hard. So on one hand, we want folks to know we're working as hard as we can, and we are making some progress, but it's not like we can snap our fingers. But on the other hand, there are some good things. So it's a balance. But we have had some victories, and there they are. Does anyone know what the number 1 is at the top? Rico? That's right. Last year, we passed a bill that added animal baiting and fighting to the list of racketeering offenses for Florida, so it stiffens the penalty. That's huge. That's great. Second one, I doubt anybody here knows, and it's not all that clear. It's obviously just abbreviated, but this past fall, we had a very big win with wildlife. Florida, our legislation that goes, Florida wildlife legislation goes through the FWC, which is unique, very unique. And then the commissioners voted to ban the importation of deer into Florida this past September, which was wonderful. The reason we pushed to have that ban go into place is because the risk of chronic wasting disease, which is like mad cow disease in cows. This is CWD in deer. So it would put our native deer at risk. It's very bad, dangerous disease. And you might be thinking, why are people importing deer into Florida? I mean, we have deer, right? Of course. Mm-hmm. Oh, does anyone know why? Hunting. Yeah. We can't hunting facilities, the fenced-in enclosures where people pay big money to go and kill deer. And other exotics, not just deer. So they ship them in. They were. Now they have to buy them in Florida. It may not seem that exciting because it's still a yucky thing anyway. It's not a good practice. But it was a step in the right direction. So now people that own these canned hunting facilities can no longer import deer from other states. So it is good in terms of the disease, not bringing chronic wasting disease into our state. we still were going to work on can hunting soon. And then some of the others you may be familiar with. We don't need to go through all of them, but those were just recent. Humane euthanasia, that was the heart stick that we passed, preventing that last year, 2012, and on and on and on. So if you could go to the next. There we go. There's Gypsy.
I just paged them to see if they can bring her over
Oh,
to you.
good. Just if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. No.
Gypsy is a special girl. But a year and 8 months. Yes, I emailed you today about that.
Lisa.
Very, she's really got some pretty markings.
Came in with a whole bunch of puppies. Did they tell you that?
No.
She weaned her puppies. All the puppies have gotten a home, but Gypsy's also heartworm positive. She has complications with her heartworm treatment, so she's been with us a long time. She is available. She's a lovely dog.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully we'll get to meet her. So thank you. Okay, now Carrie and I love this slide. I'm kidding because we don't know. But I just like to summarize it.
The process is hard.
Yeah. That's it. But
Well, actually, no. I
just the houses.
Yeah. So there's a House and a Senate. In Florida, a bill has to pass both houses. A bill has to be introduced in both houses, has to pass both houses, and then it has to be the same. If it's not the same, the two chambers fight over it. And you can go through every process. In Florida, bills go through multiple committees. They'll go through 3 or even 4 committees on both sides. So 3 or 4 committees in the House, 3 or 4 committees in the Senate. And at every step along the way, not only can the bill die, it can just never be heard. It can not advance. So and you can go through all the committees, get positive votes, pass the House, pass the Senate, and then it can still die. And even then, if it goes through all of that, it can go to the governor, and the governor can veto it. So there's a famous story when Ben Franklin came back from Europe and met with George Washington. He asked George Washington, "Why did you allow for the creation of a Senate?" And George Washington said, "Why do you put your tea in a saucer?" And Ben Franklin said, "Well, to cool it." And Washington said, "That's why we allow the Senate, so that cooler heads can prevail." My point is that the process was designed to be hard. It was in a way designed not to pass things. I'm not sure the founders intended for it to be as hard as Florida is. But nonetheless, it's a hard process. So, next slide.
Okay, now
Let's
this
skip-
one is.
Come back. We'll come to the website.
Oh, you want to come to the website?
We'll do the website.
Okay, good.
Skip.
He knows. Okay, he's just trying to be extra nice to me today because I want to do the website. Okay, I use the address here for the shelter for our state and House and Senate, and then of course Governor Scott. Who I should have asked you before we get to the slide, but who here has these? The Senator Joyner, and Representative Cruz for you. Do you know? None of you guys. Okay. Well, there's a lot. I mean, the line goes. I mean, there's a bunch. Does anyone here know who their state senator and representative are? Who?
When,
Yeah.
hey,
Who?
Dana Young
Yeah.
and Jeff Brandis.
Brandis. Yes. Great. Both great on animal issues.
now, later when we check the website, we're going to see if you're right. If you are right, you're going to win a prize. If you're not right, then, there will be consequences. Okay.
But that's we'll show the lookup later on the website.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So, next
Next
slide.
slide.
Okay.
Oh, God.
So, obviously, Florida's home to a majority of the remaining dog tracks. There's greyhound racing now in only 7 states. There are 21 tracks nationwide. 12 of them are in Florida. The way to understand decoupling, which is the main thing we're going to be fighting for this year, we're going to be fighting for several things. And there's a fact sheet right up here.
Pass them out.
Yeah, would you pass around some of the decoupling fact sheets?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay. The way to understand this is very simple. Many years ago, Florida tracks only had greyhound racing. They wanted to have other types of gambling. like simulcasting of horse races from other places, card rooms, slot machines. They had some success over a long period of time in convincing lawmakers to give them the right to have those other types of gambling. But when that happened, the legislature said, in order for you to have those other types of gambling, you must continue racing dogs. So there is a mandate in law that says Derby Lane must race dogs in order to have its poker room. Now, fast forward all these years later, last year, Florida's racetracks, all the dog tracks combined, lost $35 million on greyhound racing.
Good.
Okay? They made $39 million on poker. So the way the law is, it doesn't make any sense, right?
I see a real good solution.
Well, and so the solution is simply to disconnect them.
Right.
And all the tracks support it. We almost passed this bill a few years ago, and we have a good chance of passing it again this year. So
I added this from previous year's slides.
yes. And should I deal with that now, or is there a slide for injury reporting specifically?
There's one for injury reporting.
Okay. Go forward. So here's the decoupling we said.
The gaming committee.
That gambling in Florida becomes very complicated politically. The tracks, the racetracks are very powerful. There's a big debate about should we allow commercial casinos, how important is the lottery, we have these tribal casinos, and all of this gets sort of lumped together. And there's millions of dollars at stake, and there's every big powerful lobbyist in the states working on it. Greyhound decoupling may be part of a larger bill that deals with these other issues. We just don't know. Or it may be separate. It's not going to be a straightforward path. All the other bills we're going to talk about, there's going to be a bill, it's going to be filed, we're going to fight for it, it's either going to pass or it's not going to pass. Greyhound decoupling is going to be much more complicated because it's going to be part of this larger debate. At some point, we will come to you and say, we need you to contact your lawmakers about this decoupling bill that's moving. But we don't know when that will be, and honestly, we don't know what form it will take. So if you're confused, it's because we're confused.
What
It's
is
not
the
up to
best
us.
form? What is the best way to do it?
Well, the best way to do it is for it to be a separate bill.
Separate bill, right.
But we don't have
You know, power.
control over that, no.
I received an email about a month ago from HSUS regarding the ability to send comments to the Hillsborough County Gaming Commission. Is that comment period still open? Because I sent a letter.
You knew that. That was to the gaming committee. Just comments.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you for
So
doing
the
that.
legislature, to give a little more detail, I don't want to get stuck on this because we have a lot to address, but
This
um,
is our number one issue,
it-
so it's okay to get
it is.
stuff in.
to give a little more detail, about a year ago, the leaders of the legislature said, we're going to relook at gambling brand new. And they created these special committees that had never existed before. And they spent $400,000 of your tax money on a study to understand what's happening now and what might the effects be of greyhound decoupling, of legalizing more commercial casinos, of giving slot machines to the racetracks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these gaming committees had hearings all over the state, and they took input, and supposedly they're going to propose some kind of big comprehensive bill to the rest of the legislature. Now, there was news stories out today on January 29th saying maybe that entire process is already dead. So, the gambling, what I can tell you is that there will be a debate in this legislative session on greyhound decoupling. I guarantee it. Whether it will be part of a large bill, whether it will be something separate, we don't know yet, and no one else knows yet.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Thank you for doing that. And the reason we asked folks to weigh in and give your opinion and support decoupling to the Senate Gaming Committee, I'm sure that's what it was, yes. is we want them to, they know about it, of course. They've been hearing from us and others and for many years, but we want them to be reminded to know that these issues are pressing and that their voters really want decoupling. So just to kind of bring it to,
You want to introduce her?
They wanted to see the slide on her. So we
Hi,
just
Cindy.
Gypsy.
Hi, Gypsy.
She needs a little tummy. She needs a little tummy touch.
Very friendly.
Like just a plain ordinary Florida brown
Everybody's
dog.
got to be
So
Gypsy.
sweet, you guys.
Oh, and she's got her socks on.
She's got, well, it's cold out.
She's got a little.
She's got her boy. Oh, I'm so glad she's here. That just makes it way more fun.
She's been here for months.
She's been here for months and months. So maybe we can snap a picture with your phone. Maybe
been a
you
long
can pass it
time.
on to your friends. We can get Gypsy a dog.
She loves other dogs. She's a sweetheart. But
Yay! That's important.
If you know anybody that's looking for a medium-sized dog, have them come look at Gypsy. She's a good girl.
She is cute as can be. She wasn't intimidated.
Too.
She does know it. She wasn't intimidated by the group.
She loves it.
She can stay. I mean, Monday.
Well, but maybe she'll get a home over there. We're still open. So I'd rather.
Oh, you're still
yeah,
open?
we're still open. Yeah. Till
Come on.
7. Yeah, till 7.
Good girl.
Thank you so much.
she's my favorite.
Mama, okay.
Bye, Gypsy.
I know.
Bye-bye. Thank you for and the other quick thing I wanted to add is that last year we said we didn't have a decoupling bill last year, and we were told that decoupling would be part of the larger gaming bill. And so we knew this vehicle was moving, and it was a good thing to be part of it because we know it was moving. So in that sense, that would be a good thing. And so now we're seeing maybe it'd be better to be a standalone. I mean, again, these decisions aren't up to us. But if this train is moving, that's how we viewed it before, and going to pass, we wanted to be on that train. That would be great to be a part of it. Now, if they're doing something else and perhaps a larger bill will pass or not, maybe a standalone would be better. We don't know.
You know, every year there are about 10 issues that don't go through the regular legislative process. There are really big major issues that have lobbyists on all sides, and for those issues, the decisions are made by the Speaker and the Senate President and at the highest level. And greyhound decoupling and the larger gambling debate is going to be one of those issues. Now, the reason why you are important is because every other racetrack in the state has a big, powerful lobbyist and a team of lobbyists. The comments that you talked about going to the Senate Gaming Committee, when the Senate Gaming Committee about a month ago published all of the comments they got, like 1,500 comments, I think, from all over the state. About 80% of those were from people saying we need to do greyhound decoupling and greyhound injury reporting. And that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. I mean, this really is a fight between our people and their money and muscle. And so, Kate and I are going to do what we can to work that inside game, but we're going to need all of your help to bring a grassroots presence to bear as we fight for this.
I don't understand.
Lady had a question then.
Sure.
The decoupling is a state issue.
Yes.
And
Everything we've talked about so far is a
it's
state
the state.
issue. Yes.
And so is it coupled in the first place because the state wants tax money from the greyhound racing and then they require that to stay there while they do the other things so that they still get tax money?
You're going to love this.
I don't know why they continue.
You're losing money on greyhound racing.
Yeah.
The state is losing money
Right. So
on
what do they
greyhound
want
racing.
with them?
The state is spending more money regulating this than it's receiving in tax revenue. There is no logical reason. You're looking for logic where there is
There is
none.
no logical
There is
reason.
no logical reason.
Wait, why was it coupled in the first place?
Because
Well,
when the
they made
racetracks,
money.
I'll tell you why. Because when the racetracks came to lawmakers and said, we want card rooms, they made a deal and they said, we'll cut in the greyhound breeders so that they don't complain about this and they don't fight it. We'll make sure that greyhound racing continues. There was no logic.
And there still isn't.
And there still isn't.
That's why
This is a political deal that was struck 20 years ago that makes no sense.
Okay.
So, other questions?
Yeah. If
receives an overwhelming response from the public that the public does not want greyhound racing, would they, in addition to decoupling, consider phasing it out down the road? Would they consider that or add that too? Is that a possibility?
Look, I believe greyhound racing is going to end in Florida. I do not believe a proposal to phase out greyhound racing in this legislative session is realistic, and the reason for that is that there still are a few tracks of the 12 tracks. Most of them want to end greyhound racing right now, but there still are a few that are profitable, marginally profitable, and will probably be profitable for another 5 to 10 years.
Which ones are those?
Well, Palm Beach Kennel Club, Derby Lane, probably Orange Park up in Jacksonville, and those tracks have very powerful lobbyists, and anything that prohibits greyhound racing, they'll oppose. So, but I, if we can pass greyhound decoupling, it will be the end of greyhound racing. It may take 10 years, it may take 15 years, but it will be a slow, gradual end of greyhound racing. There's no doubt in my mind. And we're going to continue fighting. Greyhound racing is going to end, and we're going to eventually prohibit greyhound racing in Florida. But that fight is not for this session, in my opinion.
I just have a quick question regarding what you just said. And it says greyhound racing now exists only in 7 states.
Yes.
Because the other states are prohibiting it altogether, or could greyhound racing move from Florida to another state because the dog breeders still want money?
It's a good question. It's a combination. It's a combination of several things. It is being prohibited elsewhere. In our home state of Massachusetts, we brought a ballot question to outlaw greyhound racing in 2008, and it passed overwhelmingly. That was a decade-long fight. It was an incredibly difficult battle. We also passed laws to prohibit greyhound racing in New Hampshire and Rhode Island. And there's currently a bill pending in Colorado to prohibit greyhound racing. Actually, it's being heard in the committee tomorrow. So that is happening. At the same time, your tracks all over the country are simply closing on their own. The greyhound racing industry is facing competition from all this other gambling, and there's a lot of opposition due to humane concerns. When people, I've been inside these kennels. I know what this industry is like, and they keep dogs in small cages, for 20 to 22 hours a day. The dogs are fed 40 meat from dying and diseased animals. The female greyhounds are given anabolic steroids to prevent them from going into estrus. The injury data is absolutely awful. When the public learns about how this industry operates, they don't want it to continue. So it's a combination of things that has led to just this catastrophic decline everywhere, all over the country. So, other questions?
I visited with one legislator who said that the original logic was that when the tracks came in asking for this other type of gambling, that the concern was that it was really just a ploy to turn their whole facility into a casino. And that once they got the other kinds, they would stop the greyhound and just have these massive card rooms, and he was opposed to it, to decoupling for the same reasons, that he felt that they would just turn the place in effect. It would be creating new casinos.
Right. There's a small number of extreme, quite frankly, anti-gambling lawmakers who take that position, or take the position that if the dog tracks are for something, they're going to be against it. It's just not true. I mean, what I would say back to them is, go to Flagler, go to Mardi Gras. They're already casinos that happen to have dogs running around circles with no one betting on the dogs. And decoupling doesn't allow them to do anything different. It gives them no new games. It gives them no new slot machines. It gives them nothing. All it does is say, you can do what you're doing now. If you want to race dogs, it's up to you. That's it. That's all it does. In fact, the legislature just did a big report studying all these issues. I mentioned it. You spent $400,000 of your tax money on this report. That report said that greyhound decoupling will reduce gambling in the state by more than $20 million. So greyhound decoupling is something the anti-gambling lawmakers should support because it will reduce gambling in the state. The notion, and one last thought on this, then we'll move on. The same group of lawmakers, I think they have this position that greyhound racing, because greyhound racing is unprofitable, then they should force the tracks to do it, so that these gambling dens that they don't like should lose more money. That's just unconscionable to me. I mean, the notion that you would force a business that you don't like to harm dogs so they can lose a little bit more money is crazy. So but let's move
Go
on.
to the next one. Okay. See, it's your reporting slide.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the other thing we're going to be fighting for this year for greyhounds is greyhound injury reporting. Florida is one of only two states
This is my favorite to say.
that does not report greyhound injuries, along with
Alabama.
Alabama.
Oh, swell. We're so proud of that.
Yeah.
And I tell people, anytime you're on a list with Alabama,
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
as the only other state, generally not good.
Right.
And this is going to be a separate bill. I think we have a good chance of passing it. It's going to be a hard fight. The tracks are going to fight it. The greyhound breeders will fight it. It's been in the Senate. It's Senate Bill 742. And if any of you want homework from tonight, go home after this meeting, and tomorrow or the next day, look up Senate Bill 742. We're going to show you how to do it. Find out who your state senator is. Call their office and say, will you co-sponsor Senate Bill 742? This is a great bill that will help greyhounds. The public should know how many dogs are being hurt. That would be very helpful.
I want to add something really important. If you take nothing else away tonight, I hope that you get this, at least. And many of you are seasoned at this, I know, but that you don't ever get the actual lawmaker on the phone.
No.
Of course not.
Right.
That person doesn't know anything about injury reporting, 9 times out of 10. So you don't have to be an expert, or whatever the bill is. You're just passing the message along. My name is Kate McFall. I'm one of so-and-so's constituents. I really hope that you will support Senate Bill 740.
742.
Thank you. 742. And that's it. It's short and sweet, and it's imperative. And for all the issues that we're talking about. Yes?
Next slide.
On to our next bill. Puppies. Yay! Puppy stores. Yeah. Oh. Did you have something in the back?
I was just wondering, you said that it's actually a bill, the injury reporting?
Yes.
Become a
Just no
bill.
problem.
How about the decoupling? Has that become a bill?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know yet. I know. We wish we knew. And this is sort of up in the top. So we're changing gears from greyhounds to dogs, other dogs. Florida, we have, everyone knows about puppy mills, right? And if not, we've got some good literature here on puppy mills. Behind the cruelty behind the cuteness. It's not just like the t-shirts that we see or on TV when they do the grades. It's horrible stuff. It's really, really bad stuff. And Florida is the #1 state for the sale of dogs from puppy mills. We don't have as many mills here, the actual mills. We may, we have some, but the bigger issue is the sale of dogs that have come from puppy mills in other states. Over the internet and through the stores. There's one every corner in Miami. In Tallahassee, we had two, but they're no longer there. Gainesville, there was one. It's gone.
We have them here in Hillsborough, right on Dale Mabry.
How many? Like,
People sell them in flea
Probably-
markets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
well, that's on this
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, we have quite a few.
So, you have quite a few. In Miami, literally,
Yeah.
they're on every corner. I took that picture, one of many in Miami. So this is a huge, huge issue for Florida. And we may not see it because we don't drive around the country and say, come upon this big puppy mill. It's a huge problem. And the other piece of this is consumer protection. People who think, first of all, we promote adoption, right? of course, go to your shelter, Humane Society, rescue group, adopt. If that's not going to work, go to a responsible breeder. Certainly don't go to a store and buy. But what people that do purchase online, I cannot really imagine, but people do, have it delivered like in a box. But they do. And people think that this animal, if they're going online or to a store, is from a breeder here in Florida. They're being tricked. Local breeder, they think that, and meanwhile, it came from Missouri, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, who knows, Arizona. So this is a consumer protection bill as well, to let people know the transparency. I mean, it makes sense, right? If this was a product, of course, it's an animal, and we all feel very passionate about animals, but the buyer needs to know. So that's the other piece that helps us sell it, so to speak.
I'm not sure. If they say North Carolina, why wouldn't they say, okay, that's a reputable North Carolina breeder? You know, how would that trigger?
You're right. We'd love to
something?
have a bill that says get rid of all the puppy mills. I'd love to have that bill, but it wouldn't pass.
But how will this help?
It will help because there are some people that are upset when they find out this animal didn't come from a local breeder. So some people will make the right choice. Some people will say, I don't care if this dog came from Arizona, I'm going to buy this dog. Well,
Right.
it will also help us keep track. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My family was the victim of a puppy mill, and the issue from the pet store that they bought it from is supposedly in Massachusetts there was mandatory disclosure, but they don't display where the dog comes from prominently on the cage. So is this going to help as far as this information being in the public view, or are customers still going to have to go in and demand that information?
Great question. I wish you had been with me 2 weeks ago when we met with some of our opponents. Yes, it will be displayed prominently. We met with some of our opponents, the lobbyists for the AKC and the Veterinary Association, and they had some concerns about putting the address of the breeder. So we kind of had an agreement to say the town, like Kate McFall, the breeder, Tallahassee, Florida, or breeder, whatever the name of their company is, just the city, and then the USDA number, not their address for privacy purposes. But yes, it will be displayed prominently online and on the counters. Online is the bigger one.
Yeah.
Now, so that's a great point. Thank you for mentioning that. And again, some people might say, I don't care if it came from some other state, I want to buy them. Fine. It will help us keep track, but many will not, because many think that they're getting a local animal and they're not. And the other piece in this bill is it bans flea market sales. Last year we had a bill that banned all outdoor sales, which would have been roadside, Publix parking lot, Walmart parking lot, we've all seen them, right? But there was pushback. I mean, again, what I want and what Carey wants, what you guys want, may not fly. So we have to make it, try. And so the flea market piece is back end instead of the outdoor salesman. And we're working with some of the folks that might have opposed it, and that's a really good thing. We're happy to work with them because that way we get the issue sorted out, and hopefully the bill has a better chance of passing. So that's our puppy sellers disclosure bill. And Jared Moskowitz, is our House sponsor, and we have a few possible Senate sponsors. We haven't figured it out yet. We have a few, but I don't want to say who until we get that nailed down yet. But you'll be hearing about it. Next slide, please. Shark finning bill. Yes. This one is, who here is familiar with shark finning? Do you know what actually happened? Right. Do you know what happens to the shark?
It dies slowly.
Yeah. I did a meeting last week in Naples, and I was so glad that what a wonderful group of folks we had, but many didn't know. I'm so glad that they said, I don't really know what you're talking about. So I stopped, and I was so pleased that they spoke up. But yes, it's horrible, and it's not legal in this country to actually do that, to cut off the fin and, of course, put the shark back so the shark can't swim and drowns. Dies a terrible, slow, horrible death. But currently, if I own a restaurant, I could buy fins from other places and serve them in my restaurant. So this is all about the trade. So this bill, now I wanted an amazing young man, a 13-year-old boy, he just turned 13 by the way, is behind this bill. Not me. Yes, he learned about this issue and was just beside himself, which says volumes about so many things, about children and how we should everyone here, of course, is, but not everybody out on the street would necessarily have the same reaction, but when we were children, I'm sure we all did. But he was so upset by this issue that he's been working on this up in D.C. federally, working on shark finning issues. And his mom has called me over the past year. He lives outside Orlando. And this young man, I said, we need to find some bill sponsors. And I'm like, well, lo and behold, a couple months later, they called and said, well, we've got them. And it's just amazing. So he, Senator Simmons and Representative Cleland are the shark fin bill sponsors. So this bill, it needs a few tweaks. We're working on an amendment to improve it, but it would, obviously you can see it, the sale, trade, shipping, exchange, distribution, all of that. It would ban that. And this would be enforced by the Florida Wildlife Commission. So this is a great bill. We absolutely support it. This, yeah, it's a little blurry there. But can you see? I mean, there's so many pictures where you just, football field after football field after football field, and it just looks like ants. You just can't believe it, but they're all fenced. It's a really big issue, and you know we care about all animals, of course. This is a big one, and it's the health of the oceans and so many other things. It's cruelty, really some severe cruelty that we don't.
How long it takes for them to die once they go?
I know.
It's
Not very long,
right?
Well, just like any other mammal to drown because they can't.
Because they can't touch it.
Yeah. So I don't. You know, but it's bad. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up. But it's very bad. So, and one other bill that I don't have on here that I just want to mention that Representative Hudson is putting. Have you seen this bill? Yeah. Yeah. I don't have it in the PowerPoint, but it's just if you hear about it, it's it's sort of similar to sentencing reform bill. It deals with animal cruelty and it stiffens penalties. We mentioned the RICO penalty from last year, that stiffened penalty. This would add time. It would make. I talked to another lobbyist today for the Florida Animal Control Association, and they're working with them on maybe tweaking it a bit, but it would stiffen the penalty for animal cruelty, which is great because we know it's not taken maybe as seriously as we want it to be, but we want it to be reasonable. So it would make it a higher degree, and more jail time and a higher financial penalty.
I just moved here, so this might be a stupid question. Is animal cruelty in Florida a misdemeanor or a felony?
It's a felony. But it, I can email you guys this bill. It's something we're supporting, but we're not, it wasn't we didn't bring it out, bring this bill, but it's a good one. And he's working with Representative Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz has another animal cruelty. So they're just letting you know that's sort of on the horizon. It's coming down the pike. So let's go on to the next slide. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Who is the other one besides Gates?
Representative Hudson. It's Hutson. So, let me just back up before we do a little bit of wildlife. So our number one priority, our HSUS number one priority is also greyhound decoupling. It's huge. It's so important, and you guys are going to play a really big role in that this year. And we've heard so much good information about it from Carey on inter-reporting and the puppy seller's disclosure. And I've been told from one of our legislators' aides that puppy seller's disclosure, that's not a fun name. That's not warm and fuzzy. All your dog and cat people, how are they going to get excited about this bill? And I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry it's not a fun name, but, oh my gosh. But to start down the road of puppy mills, there is, two ways. And this is probably the easiest way for Florida. Easiest, not easy on us, but easiest, most likely to pass. And so it's a start down the road of getting a handle on puppy mills. It's not going to shut them down tomorrow, of course, but it's the right path to try to get a handle on it. It's a huge problem in Florida. And if we could really, really get a handle on puppy mills, think about all the animals that are in our shelters right now. Yeah, and rescues and humane sightings. If we could get, if the word is accessible and people would not buy them. Part of that's education, but there are so many animals coming from these puppy mills, flooding homes in Florida that we have plenty of them. don't buy them. We have plenty at your local community center. So it is a big issue, whether it's got a fun name or not. It's a huge issue, and I hope that you will, we can work together. We're going to show you how to look up the bills and look up your people. And we'll also talk about Lobby Day, which is so much fun.
And let me just make a pitch for why these accountability bills are important. We passed a law in Massachusetts, and then also in several other states, that started in Massachusetts in 2001, and all it said was that racetracks in that state have to report greyhound injuries, and they have to say when a greyhound leaves your track, where did the dog go next? That's it. That's all it was. Simple bill. Now the state had already been reporting for years the number of dogs that were euthanized. There was a huge drop-off in the number of greyhounds that were killed in the year after that bill passed. There is a direct relationship with these industries between accountability and transparency and good outcomes for the dogs. And let me ask you, why do these industries fight these proposals? Why do you think that is? Why do you think greyhound breeders don't want to report greyhound injuries?
The public would be outraged.
Yes.
That's right. So part of our job as advocates for animals is not just to end greyhound racing, but also just to require greater accountability. And let them say, no, we shouldn't have to report that. I mean, think about that. Let them say, no, the public shouldn't know how many dogs are being
Bears. Who doesn't love bears, right? And we're so lucky to have beautiful black bears in Florida. Now, if you recall years ago, it was 2 years ago, 2 Junes ago, they were delisted, meaning they have less protection than they did before. Their numbers are slightly up, which is good. They're still not, the population is not overflowing, but they're breeding, and there's more of them than there was a decade ago. The problem is not that there's too many of them and they're busting out of the woods because they're too crowded and not enough room. Why are they coming out of the woods? Yeah, of course. Your trash smells delicious. Did you read the thing today? Where was it? It was in South Florida somewhere. This, where was it? It was, I get Google alerts for bears, you probably don't. This bear had helped himself to, I mean, it's funny, and I did chuckle, and I thought, I shouldn't be chuckling, but it was a little funny. He helped himself to all this food. I mean, tons of food and a beer. And didn't even break the bottle, just drank the beer and left it there. I mean, I chuckled, but
He didn't recycle.
he didn't. But the point is, they're hungry and they're not stupid. They know what the good stuff is, and they'll keep coming back. They're very smart. So it's not a bear problem, and there are more and more and more and more sightings in neighborhoods, and these conflicts, as they like to say, it's a people problem. We have to pick up our trash. So I'm asking you to help. This isn't a bill or any legislative issue right now, but to just, in your travels through life, other people in Florida, to just remember that is the answer. That is the answer. And if someday, if they do okay to hunt bears, someday down the road, I pray that isn't the case, but someday, even if they do, that they're not going to be in the neighborhoods hunting them. They'll be in the woods. We'll still have this problem. This problem meaning us, not the bears. So it's more now. It's way more now than it used to be because there's more of them and people are, the population of Florida is growing. So, yes, to a certain extent, you're right. So we just pick up our trash. That's so important. So I'm asking you to help me educate Floridians to just put your trash away. Bear Smart trash cans. They're a little bit more expensive, but they work. They can't get it. If there's nothing there, they'll move on. And you know what happens, right? When they get used to people. So now this bear has been in this guy's house twice. That's why, it's a little funny because the beer, but at the same time, if he's not, luckily no one was home. If this bear is not afraid of humans anymore, what happens to the bear? He's a goner. That's not funny. It's not funny at all, and that's why I was mad at myself for chuckling at the story because it was a little funny, but it's not because we know what happens to them, and whose fault is it? Ours. So let's try to help me educate folks on that one. I just like this slide. I just really like this picture. These are my girls. And because most people don't know, and I mentioned Naples a minute ago. A lot of folks in Naples didn't know, but Florida has a law that prohibits local municipalities from enacting any legislation based on breed. So where I live, Leon County can't all of a sudden come up with some legislation based on, insurance or some other thing based on breed. Miami-Dade was grandfathered in, of course. We all know that when they passed this. But local municipalities cannot do anything based on breed. That's a great thing. People do not know this. The county commissioners in Leon County, I joke about that, but about 6 months ago there was some talk about it because somebody brought it up before them, and I said, excuse me, no. There's a law in Florida. Oh, we didn't know. So people don't know, and it's a good law. The only bad thing is that we wish we hadn't grandfathered Miami-Dade in because they have the pitbull ban, which we all know it doesn't work, and that's crazy. It doesn't at all. And I just really wanted you guys to see what else.
I don't know, Kate. They look pretty vicious.
They're ferocious. Ferocious. Okay, next one. Yes.
About the breed specific. So you say that they can't do any banning based on breed.
Legislation.
Right. So, because I know a lot of apartment complexes, they're like, oh, if you own such and such a breed, you can't live here. Isn't
Right.
that kind of...
It's a great question. And that's exactly what was asked last week. I should have addressed it. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a privately owned apartment complex. So if Carrie and I invested and bought an apartment complex, we could make, everybody has to have a Greyhound.
Sounds good to me.
You can make your own rules. So I know. We
And a
wish that
couple of
wasn't the
cats.
case. Yeah. There you go. So that's different, but legislation, county ordinance, that type of thing, the law. But that's a really good question. Privately owned, you can do what you want.
It's the same thing with like insurance companies when you're getting your homeowners.
I know.
insurance, they ask you what kind of dog you have.
It's a huge nightmare.
Just have up to 10.
Privately owned insurance, it's a huge nightmare, I know.
So, what can you do to help? Now, Kate had a slide earlier about this young man that introduced the shark finning bill. I think your job is to all try and outdo him. But in all seriousness, everyone can know who your lawmakers are, your state lawmakers. We're not talking about the folks in D.C. You can know who your state lawmakers are. You can call them when issues come up. You can ask them to co-sponsor the bills that we've talked about. When these bills start to move, we will ask you, especially if your lawmaker sits on one of the committees that the bill is being heard in, we will contact you and say, contact your state representative. Sometimes most of the time it'll be an email. If there's an emergency, working on a decoupling bill, we may start phone making people, but we'll contact you and say, please send an email, call. Everyone can give a voice to the animals on these bills. Next.
And some others will come up.
Yeah, just bring them all up.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll come back.
There you go.
Handwrite a letter to your lawmaker. I don't recommend this for DC. Apparently, it takes them like a year to get there. But Florida state lawmakers, in my opinion, do like handwritten, personalized letters. Tell them about your animals.
And like the
Tell them.
story about the puppy mill.
That's right. Tell them. Tell them. Every lawmaker has a file, and it's the animal person in their district. For real.
They do.
They do. Become the animal person in your district. Now, don't become the animal nut in your district. It's a separate file. So, don't call every day. Don't send them 200 pages of documents. Know how far you can go. But get to know your state lawmakers and become the animal person in your district. Send letters to the editor. The editorial page, the op-ed page, both editorials and letters to the editor, is always the most read page of the newspaper. Always. It is, other than perhaps the front page. It is widely read, and it is not hard to get letters published. How many people have had a letter to the editor published in their name? Anyone else? Okay. You should all take advantage of this. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. You can, put together a very short, 200-word letter, and it will be read by thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. It's a tremendous way to educate.
For example, you could submit one tomorrow. So I went to a great meeting at the Tampa Bay Humane Society, which is a nice plug for this place, and learned about important greyhound issues in Florida. Let's all get, support greyhound decoupling, whatever we're doing. anything. It just, there's probably more thought out.
You can write a letter to the editor about bears. You can say,
Yay!
look, I know we all grew up watching Yogi Bear, but
Gentle Ben.
and Gentle Ben, but in today's environment with we all have to remember that we have to be good neighbors to bears and have bears safe trash cans.
That's right.
There's your letter. Okay. Meet with your lawmaker in the district. How many of you have done that? What was that experience like?
Oh, it's wonderful. They're always very accommodating and cordial. It's not scary at all. They really want to hear from people in their district.
And how did you do it? What was the process that you went through to get a meeting?
Called up, set an appointment with their aide, and often met with the aide. There's been a few times when we've actually met with the legislator. But you're right, it is usually the aide that you're meeting with. And, of course, was properly mortified to see that the aide is 12.
Yes.
But it helps if you're of our age to feel like, okay, well, I have something important to say here that this person can learn from. So it helps take away from the intimidation.
And before we go on, I just want to put a plug in.
Yeah,
I'm
please
hoping
do.
to
I was
go
going to.
tomorrow to Big Cat Rescue. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this.
You
If
guys
you
check
have not gone, you should go there. You should be supporting. This is tremendous.
BigCatRescue.org.
What can you not love
BigCatRescue.org.
about giant big cats? Really? Question?
Right here.
My mom just visited. I've lived here for 3 months. I just went to Big Cat Rescue for the first time, and it was absolutely amazing. The guy we had volunteered there for 13 years. You will see cats that you didn't even know existed. I mean, I consider myself fairly knowledgeable about wildlife, but they have animals there that you never even heard of.
Yes.
And a lot of
We
them were
love you.
rescued from
Yeah.
We absolutely
fur
love you.
farms and
Right.
basements in Brooklyn, and the beautiful female lion they have there used to guard a drug dealer's house, and they had it declawed. I mean, the stories are absolutely heartbreaking, but these are the happiest, most well taken care of cats you will ever see in your life. And one of the mountain lions just got introduced to catnip two weeks ago, and absolutely loves it.
So in other words, if you don't go visit Big Cat Rescue in the next, let's say, month, you're completely heartless. No, I'm just kidding. But, okay.
Okay,
Moving
let's
on.
go on to the next one.
Wait, before you go on, I used to know, but what does Gray 2K stand for?
So it was a name. I didn't create the name, but it originally stood for Greyhound Racing Ends Year 2000.
2000, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we wanted to, if this will work.
To the website.
Is there more?
Yes. No, back.
No, I just
yeah.
wanted.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is like my favorite slide. United States zip codes. Now, the reason I put that on here, that's not very fun either, but that's to find out your 4-digit thing. And I put it in my phone under zip codes because who remembers their 4-digit, right? You do? Okay, well. Okay, she agrees with me. I don't remember it, so I put it in my phone under zip codes. But you put in your address and it tells you your 4 digits.
Plus 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Plus 4.
Your 4. Yes.
Yeah,
your
plus 4.
Okay, it tells you your plus 4. So you remember it, so you can look. Why are we caring about this? Because we want to look up your lawmakers, your legislators. So your plus 4. So and then state officials here. I forget what website I have. Oh, that was the put in your address with your plus 4, and then the House and the Senate. Did you want to go to those?
Sure. Can you click? Is it clickable?
I think so. Yes. I have a few more slides that we.
Click on myfloridahouse.gov and you'll see what happens.
Okay.
Using there's some mouse in there. This one. Okay.
Yeah.
There
Try
it
this.
is. Okay. I don't know what happened.
Try this.
Well, I can still go. You want this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should go to it.
Oh, that. Okay. There it is. And now
You don't have it in there.
Oh, we don't
so-
have
Oh, yeah. I have it in the bag, but that's okay. We don't have to do it. We can come back to it. You can hit OK.
I'm trying.
Yeah. find it.
It's
Yeah.
no, no, this one. Or the left one. Yeah. Sorry.
But the point is to know who your people are, and sure, absolutely. You can get it if you
Or-
signed in.
Or Google,
information?
Yeah, of course. And it's on the Florida HSUS Facebook page. The main HSUS Facebook page is different, but the Florida HSUS Facebook page, you will find it there. And one quick note about that one thing I wanted to tell you also, Sherry, is that HSUS, we are doing a free law enforcement training here for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in June on animal cruelty and crimes relating to animals with the Sheriff's Office, which is great. We do them all over the country. And that we are, I'm it for Florida. People sometimes think we have tons and tons of people. I wish. I really do wish, but it's just me. There's a lot of other staff members, of course, that were based up in Maryland, but so it's really just me, and I'm in Tallahassee, stuck way up there. But I travel a lot. Yes.
I just want to put in a plug for Lobby Day. I've been there a number of times, and I've gone to DC to do Lobby Day there, and it's really it's a fascinating experience to go through the halls, and it's really easy. They give a lot of guidance. Sometimes you meet with an aide, sometimes you'll meet with the legislator, sometimes with both. But getting firsthand to see how this thing works is really just interesting and educational, I found, for me. Secondly, if you really want to do something for animals, there's probably no better way for you to spend one single day than to do this, because the reason it has impact is so few people will make the effort. And the fact that we went up there and took the trouble to go, you think of all the time you may spend now. Hopefully you're spending quite a bit of time doing things for animals. Well, the impact you can have by being one more person that comes into that office and says, I support this. The next thing that happens is, if you do it and you've been face-to-face with either the aide or the legislature, you develop a relationship with them. You get more relationship with someone that you've been face-to-face than on the phone. Then, later, when you call, that person remembers who you are, and you can have much more impact over time because you build this relationship with the aides and the legislator. So I really would encourage you to come. It's a lot of effort driving up there. We find that if we get a book on tape, it makes the drive go much more quickly both ways. And it really is an interesting thing to do.
And thank you for saying that. Carol and Howard have been going. I've met you at TAFA, and you've been going since before I started going many years ago. So they know.
We've been to every TAFA.
You've been every TAFA. I think I didn't go the first 2 years, so I've been however many left that is, maybe 6. I don't even know, but a lot. They were going before I was going. I mean, these guys know it. And TAFA is I don't have a slide on that. I thought about that today. TAFA is in June this year, end of June. TAFA is like Lobby Day, but federally. So it's in D.C. It's at the end of June, and it's called Taking Action for Animals. Oh. And it is.
It's so much fun.
Yes, animal conferences. It is awesome. Yes.
I hope you don't mind if I put in a little plug, but as he said, it is important to be one more person who speaks for the animals. A couple years ago, about 2.5 years ago, a group of maybe about 8 of us got together, and we formed the Florida chapter of the League of Humane Voters. There's not a lot of us who are volunteers. We do have a lot of members across the state of Florida, but I do want to let you know how very important it is. Even though you feel like it just might be just one person, the more people that we can get together to speak for the animals, it really can make a big difference. A couple years ago, there was a little boy who was killed by a chained dog out in Jacksonville. And I was a little bit nervous about going out there because the League of Humane Voters had just started, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know anybody out in Jacksonville. But I drove out there, and I drove to the lady's house, the woman who her son was killed, and left a note on her door that I wanted to talk to her, and that I was heading to speak in front of the legislators about the dog chaining, about the dog chaining incident, and to see if we would make a law. And right as I arrived to the city hall, she called me, and she said, I will be right there. And I spoke in front of the legislators, and for 6 months, it was an uphill battle to meet people out there, because I lived in Tampa, but finally I got enough of a group behind me, and we got an anti-chaining law passed that will go into effect this October. So, one person can make a difference.
And don't overlook Don't overlook your local community as well. I mean, county ordinances. There are many issues that can be addressed, at the county level, and the work that you've done is a tremendous example of that. It's, I don't like the legislative process. Okay, I get it. We see the folks in D.C. yelling at each other, not getting anything done, and it's painful. I get it. But you know what? Not only was this a process that was created, it was intended for people like you to be able to make a change. For it to be hard, but for people like you to be able to make a change. But also, I would say that if you deeply care about animals, you need to engage and be a part of this process. It's a requirement, not to the exclusion of everything else you're doing, but everyone can be engaged. Everyone can know who your lawmakers are. Everyone can have a sense of what issues are coming forward at the state level and fight for them. Because if you don't, every time you don't call your lawmaker on one of these issues, representatives for these animal industries are calling and filling that vacuum. Every issue we've talked about here today, there are people from the other side who have a vested interest in continuing these practices, and they are filling that void, and they're engaging in the legislative process. So it's up to you whether you're going to, concede the playing field to them and let them to continue to do these things, or whether you're going to engage and make a difference. And I've personally seen at the state level the difference that can be made. At the local level, we've seen the change that can be made. At the federal level, HSUS has been an incredible leader in terms of making change. So, it's not a fun process, but we have to just get beyond that and engage and really give the animals a voice.
2 years ago, when the decoupling bill was up, I called my rep's office, and maybe this was 3 years ago, and I said, Kate McFall, and I'm supporting the bill number. Please ask so-and-so to support the bill. She said, well, it's about time you started calling. I've got a whole list here from the other side. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get going. I called everybody. I said, quick. They literally keep a tally. Literally. That's what she said, and she obviously was on our side. So she was like, oh gosh, I've been waiting. Come on. Got a few more slides.
Yep.
Yes.
One day we were sitting in the waiting area of a United States Senator, and there were two staff there taking phone calls. And one hung up the phone and turned to the other one and said, that's the 12th call I've gotten today on that issue. This must be a really hot issue. Think about that. 12 calls made it a hot issue. So every call does count. And showing up in person is far more impactful than calling.
That's right. Expo, Daytona Beach, not as far as Tallahassee. So that's coming up. Anybody has anyone here ever been to the Expo? HSUS Animal Sheltering Expo? This is just fun. It's educational too, but it's really fun. There's classes go from animal sheltering, wildlife, to fundraising, charity. In fact, it's coming up too. 21st, 22nd of February, the Florida Animal Control Conference in Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach. Yes, Cocoa Beach. But this is and this is just fun. This is a picture of my dog having fun. But that's right here in Florida. So it was in New Orleans or Las Vegas last year. So it's right here. It's a great way to connect with other folks in animal sheltering. And on the website, animalsheltering.org. Animalsheltering.org. There's lots of information. And I think.
Is that it?
I think we could just. Oh yes, who here has a license plate? Yay! Me too. These funds go to spay neuter in Florida. So, but there's other good license plates too. My friend said, "Well, I've got the manatee." I said, "Okay, I'm not gonna, brag at you about that." But if you don't have anything, come on, get a Florida animal friend license plate. It helps spay neuter in Florida. And there may be. That's all.
Is that your dog too?
That's one of them. Yes, she has no ears, but she does now.
Just a couple things. Just during this meeting here, I went and found my elected official. Very easy on the website. I have Bill Nelson and Marco Rubio in the Senate.
They're federal.
That's federal.
Oh, that's federal? Okay.
We have Dana Young and
Okay.
Jeff Brand.
That's why I wanted
Okay.
to go to the website.
Okay. And
regarding, you mentioned something about your website.
Yes.
During this meeting, I also went to Facebook and liked your page.
Thank you.
Invited all my Greyhound friends to like your page as well. Is that updated from your webpage as well?
Yeah.
Into Facebook?
It is. We update our Facebook page every day. So yeah, that's another great way to find out about what we're working on and what Greyhound issues are coming up right now. Is go to our Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/GreatUKUSA.
And I can just share your stuff. with
Absolutely, absolutely. Right here?
Can we get more materials that we can give to neighbors and bring them to the community meetings that we hold?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you can photocopy everything
Yeah.
you got, but we do have additional fact sheets up here.
Yes,
Take
yes,
take
take
whatever you can use. Take. Absolutely.
So,
You just brought up our federal representatives, Marco Rubio and Bill Nelson. And HSUS released a report about their scores, and one had a 0 and one had a 20. So we really need to send them an email.
Which was
or
which? Why don't you tell
Yes.
us?
Oh, Nelson had a 20.
Rubio has 0.
That's gotta be.
And Rubio is responsible for our original animal fighting bill on the state level, so we can't figure it. But she's right, and what she's talking about is the HSLF, Humane Society Legislative Fund, the Humane Scorecard, which is a beautiful thing, because it really shows their scorecard. That's on the federal level. So, yes, they need to hear, 0 and 20 and 1. That's seriously. But then again, on the state level, they're different, and that's the ledge lookup, humanesociety.org/ledge lookup.
Yeah, I
You found
found
it.
it.
Okay, good. And that's when you need the plus 4.
No, actually, I just put it, it just requested the 5.
Okay, depending if it's rural or if it's how rural it is. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Yes, Sarah.
On a positive note, Kathy Castor has 100%.
Yeah. Yes. I figured that. I was waiting to hear her name at some point.
Two things. The cat rescue up in Spring Hill person had her eye put out. You know about that? Okay. Do you know anything
Not
about
us.
that? Okay. Well, that person up there, obviously, I mean, I think she sleeps in her car or something. She needs help up there. And she's got big animals that she takes care of. Okay, there's that. And do you know anything that's going on about Nosy the elephant? The Libel Circus. He's supposed to come back to Lakeland with the elephant, and
It's between here and Orlando.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I did hear
We're
that.
Nosy right about Lakeland.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I don't have any more updates.
Okay, we'll get with you.
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. My cards are right here.
Okay.
Let's definitely talk about that. I'm an advocate too. I mean, yeah, it's the circuses. I mean, come on. But,
Yeah.
yeah, still going on. It's a little surprising. So Florida has some work to do, but
Yeah.
but that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
Like Carrie said, if you are a serious animal person, and if you're here tonight, you are a serious animal person. So whether it's coming to Humane Lobby Day or TAFA up in DC at the end of June, or just getting active locally here and working on these issues when you get the alerts.
Well, let me just end with, you are an untapped force. In 2002, I traveled all across the state to campaign against a ballot question to prop up greyhound racing with slot machine profits. And I did like a 15-city tour, and I met with all of the major animal groups back then. And I came away from that tour with two impressions. The first impression was that Florida's animal advocacy community is really potent. I mean, it's vast. There are a lot of people. They're passionate. They're committed. I mean, you are a force to be reckoned with. The other impression I came away with was that you don't know each other. You don't talk to each other.
Right.
And when you do talk to each other, it's not always positive. Now, all of us can engage, be a voice for the animals, and when you see your two U.S. senators having a score of 0 and 20%, that's because they're not afraid of you. I mean, let's be honest. If they thought casting bad votes on these issues would hurt them politically, they wouldn't be casting bad votes. So work with us, work with others in your community, help us pass these bills, help Great TK USA pass Greyhound decoupling this year, pass Greyhound injury reporting, help Kate on all these other issues, and let's really just give all the animals the best voice we can. So thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
Can I put in a plug for our federal bill?
Please do.
Right now, the only way to stop big cat, there are thousands and thousands of big cats living in backyards in horrible circumstances around the country, used for entertainment, cubs that are being born ripped from their mothers and used for petting to make money, and cubs swimming, which is abusive. The cubs don't want to be thrown in a swimming pool. The only way to stop this is a federal bill. It's H.R. 1998.
HR
Senate
81.
1381, and it would ban the breeding and possession of big cats, and it would be wonderful if you would look that up, and you can find it on our catlaws.com, and email your congressmen and senators in support of it.
Where is it now?
It's been assigned to Natural Resources. Very tough battle in the House, better prospects in the Senate, but we're up to 84 co-sponsors in the House.
great.
The problem is most of them are Democrats, and we need to build Republican support. We are currently working on a specific plan to try to do better at that. But every voice counts.
And if you visit Big Cat Rescue, they have you sign the petition.
I know, I love it.
At the end.
They know. Great.
Would petitions help? Getting petitions going for the greyhounds?
Yeah, we do use that, and we have petitions going. But to be honest, we know who's going to make the decisions on these issues. It's the lawmakers in Tallahassee. I mean, it's a small group of folks that are going to decide on it. We know who they are. We have their phone numbers.
They're ours.
They're expecting us to call them.
Yeah.
So
If you have friends in the Panhandle, let's talk. We need more advocates up there. We have a lot of good advocates in here and in South Florida, but not as many in the Panhandle. So,
What are the key times to be sending them emails or calling or sending letters? What are the key times to do
I mean, obviously, when there's a vote is when there's going to be a vote the next day. That's the key time. But establish a relationship with your lawmaker. I mean,
go visit them now. Make an appointment. The first 3 weeks of February, they're there, and then the last week they're home.
and I'll tell you a secret. They're people. They're ordinary people.
They have pets.
They have likes. They have dislikes. They have friends. I know that may be hard to believe, but they're people just like we are.
Uh-huh.
So get to know them. They'll have days in the district, when they meet with constituents.
And
So
it's better now when there's not necessarily something super pressing. I mean, they are pressing, but to just say now, visit with them now and say these issues are coming down the pike. These are really important, and then when they do come down the pike.
let's do two last questions, then we'll stop because it's getting a bit late.
It's not a question, just
Okay.
a comment.
Sure.
If you have a greyhound and if you make an appointment with your lawmaker, ask if you can bring your greyhound. One of the guys in our group said lawmaker had never been up close to a greyhound. It was like someone
Or someone else's greyhound.
Good
Good idea.
Adopt a greyhound that you can then go.
Yeah,
Adopt one.
Or one other quick thing, don't forget Gypsy. Sweet Gypsy.
Yeah, don't forget
So
Gypsy, please.
maybe you could put her on your Facebook or send a picture around to your friends.
You
Sweet
could,
Gypsy.
you could say she's an honorary greyhound.
Yeah.
She's a greyhound in hiding.
That's right.